Hi, I'm very happy to interview Reverend Jeannette Phillips. I refer to her as my fearless hero because she really gets involved, and she's involved in things that are for the good of Peekskill and for the good, I'll say, of mankind, because she's working on the Martin Luther King annual commemoration dinner once again. She's very involved in this for many, many years. She's also an official for the for the preservation company in Peekskill. And it's very involved in the housing of people that need placement in affordable housing and people that have been displaced as well. I'm very impressed with the kind of work that she's doing. I'm really honored to interview her, as she is actually the committee chair, as far as I'm concerned, because she comes in and she seems to be the glue that keeps this committee together and focused. I like to refer to her as our database, because she's been doing this for so long, and we have a question about something and she just goes into her mind and she has the answer because she's been there, she's done that, and she's doing it again. Welcome, Reverend Phillips. Thank you so much for being on this interview show.
Well, very good. It's a pleasure for me to be able to be here, and certainly to be able to share with you about our continuing the dream, yes, which is the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yes, yes. So in your view, how does the preservation company link or have a relationship with the foundation, or I'd say the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King? I mean, he changed this whole country, and which means that he's changed this city. I think those kind of changes happen, on a cellular level, to sort of use an analogy to the human body, the human organism. I see it in you. I see it in the work that we're doing.
Well, it's interesting that you shared from that aspect. I would have to just look back in time to be able to say back in the mid-'80s, when there was a housing crisis, almost like where we are today, but just a little different tact, where people needed to have additional housing. And so the Hudson River Healthcare, which was Peekskill Area Health Center at that time, rose to meet the need of people who had been either evicted, or people may have had the misfortune of a fire or something, but there wasn't that much housing stock. Right. So our company, in rising up to meet that particular need, much like Dr. King, yes, when he too rose to meet the needs of people throughout this country, to say that here in Westchester County, a very affluent county, but yet it had pockets of poverty.
Yes.
And so we took that challenge on and bought a unit of housing in Peekskill for 2 families to be able to come and to live in what we call transitional housing. They would have come for a period of time and then looked for permanent housing. So that was in the mid-'80s when this company was first formed under the health center.
Right, and that would be 1986, correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
So you've actually filled that pocket, it seems, because I know that there are people that actually own homes now. You help them to achieve home ownership. There's budget counseling, credit counseling. What kind of a population at this point in time do you feel that you're serving a need for?
Well, it's a whole mixed population right now, because, again, because of the economic downturn, if you will, that our country has been going through. You have people that are in our middle income bracket that have lost jobs. Companies have gone south, if you will. And so therefore the market has been greatly affected, and people have different housing needs. So that where we speak about fair and affordable housing, there's also for those people who invested in acquiring properties and perhaps fell into the foreclosure realm. So many of the needs, aside from someone just having their own apartment, it may be their home that might be up for foreclosure, and we're able to put a package together for them as a nonprofit in order to help them stabilize their families again.
Yeah, I find it very interesting that there's a link between healthcare and housing. And how have you filled that link with the preservation company?
Well, we've been able to fill that link because we know that healthcare and housing go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's hard to interview someone in regards to healthcare, and especially with community health centers. That's another stick that I could just be on for a while.
Yeah.
Having had exposure to that movement for the last 40 years, is that when you start to talk to a person and they come in, whether it's for a cold or sore throat, and then they begin to start talking to you about their family and what some of those other particular needs are. So in terms of being able to say, not only with their health care, that if it's housing needs or there may be some other family needs, that counseling is necessary, or for the children going to school if they're not able to meet the particular needs in school because some other issues are. So these things all intertwined. We use an expression that we treat the whole person. And so in treating the whole person, it's whether it's housing needs or whether it's health care, education, jobs, all of that. And that's what community health centers do. And so therefore, having a housing preservation company next door to a health center certainly kind of blends what we both do in the community.
Seems apropos. It really does. As you explained, I think that a lot of people are not aware of the connection between housing and health.
Yes, absolutely.
There's some ignorance out there. I think no one's fault, but people just don't see it. So how do you actually get the message out?
Well, we do a lot of workshops in the community, and certainly for any community events that are going on, we try to share that information with them so that they do know that our doors are open. But like many things, unless a person or that family may have a particular need, they just may not be aware that it's in the community. But we're looking to continue to share more, including a new website that we're going to be introducing, so that people will be able to early on find out about the services that the Preservation Company offers.
And I understand that you're very, very astute when it comes to the link between the arts and healthcare and the Reverend Martin Luther King.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We here in Peekskill, we're in the northern tier of the county. And certainly, if you want to make Peekskill a destination point, and we certainly hope people do, that it is an up-and-coming arts community. And when you talk about, and I mentioned about treating the whole person, when you embrace someone, you're embracing their whole being. And art is simply an expression of one's being. And we know that when we speak of words like continuing the dream, we want to be able to give hope. And just 2 years ago, they unveiled the new stone in Washington, D.C., the Stone of Hope. And so we see that as the artist lends itself to be able to give those kind of expressions. It totally envelops a person, because that's really what it's all about. You can't, in my opinion, you can't legislate only the equality of man. It has to be something that's really embraced from within. And that's why we use the term continuing the dream, because we want it to go, we want it to have the life, if you will, that Dr. King's legacy actually brings and continues to rise up. It's a never-ending change of continuing the dream in terms of going forward, and certainly what other format but through the arts to be able to help us appreciate one another.
So I think artists, it seems that you recognize the fact that the people that do engage in art are engaging in a spiritual process. And I'll say that, and I'll question you on this, Dr. King, people sometimes forget that he was a Christian minister, okay? And so there is a spiritual component, regardless of what your religion is, that goes along with this dream, and I feel, as you might also, that the arts should be part of it. And I'll also share, and you can actually address this, I understand that you recently had a very important anniversary. You were involved with a local church in Peekskill. Maybe you can share that with us.
I'm glad you asked. I'm a member of, associate minister of Park Street African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. And it's a church that just celebrated its 160th anniversary.
Okay.
The AME Zion Church in and of itself has been called the Freedom Church.
Okay.
And certainly we have that history of being able to come up through the roots of slavery, come up through the hard times of civil rights movement. And so therefore, we stand as a beacon light in our community. It's the oldest black church in our community.
Okay.
Many civil rights movement meetings were held in our church. And so it's appropriate that we continue to celebrate, because that's what makes a community like Peekskill that has a rich heritage that we need to always celebrate and share back with the community.
Yeah.
So that's another interesting piece for us to celebrate.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, given this, I think it's appropriate that you're basically the head of the committee. And I always say that you're, in my mind, I never share this at the committee, that you're like the database. You know, we have a question, you know, you have the answer because you've been doing this for so long, you know, and I have to say that I really appreciate you for this. You know, maybe you could talk a little bit about the dinner, and a little bit, just give a little hint about what's going to happen at the dinner.
Well, the dinner will be held January 20th, and it's at 4 p.m., and it's at Colonial Terrace.
Yes.
We're very pleased because Colonial Terrace has been a good partner, if you will, in having the dinner, to be able to keep it at an affordable price for our community, and then being able to have the various honorees that we do. This year we'll be celebrating 4 of our board members for their years of tenure to the company, which is Estelle Jameson, Irene Jones, Norma White, and Norman Haight.
Okay.
And then we have a contractor, Frank Puglisi, who we'll be honoring. And then this year we have another special touch, and that will be commemorating a memorial piece for Charlie Scott, who was a local musician, and I know you're going to be hearing a lot more about that.
Yes, definitely. We will be speaking to John Ford about Charlie Scott and what he'll be doing to commemorate him and to memorialize him.
Yes. So so the dinner and that whole afternoon and early evening will explode with various music and good food and good friendships and all of that. So we're really looking forward to people really coming out and supporting the event, because we do use those particular funds for the Preservation Company.
Which is doing fantastic work. Thank you so much, Reverend. I really think that what you're doing is good, and I can see it comes straight from your heart. So this is Reverend Jeannette Phillips, and we're really very, very blessed to have her on our committee. Thank you.